She's irreplaceable, and anyone who tries to copy her is going to fail. They need to be their own person. Karoline Leavitt was able to keep the message on Donald Trump and his policies. They need to be someone who's got the president's trust. That's very critical. Someone like Karoline who understands the president, understands him fully and his communication style. And I also think, too, someone who's going to chart a new course.
So the Karoline Leavitt era is coming to an end. She's going to be stepping down as White House press secretary at the end of August. Are you shocked by this, David?
No, not really. Usually presidents change their press secretaries before the midterm or right after the midterm. And it was about time for this to happen, especially because Donald Trump will need a new communications face going in. We have a rough midterm coming up and also the prospect of a Democratic Congress. So he wants someone who's going to come across a little harsher. Not that Caroline couldn't be harsh with her critics, but she had a different persona than he's going to want during those circumstances.
And obviously, he's a huge fan of her. How would you sum up how she's done over the past 18 months?
Oh, she's been great. She stayed on message, which is really hard for a White House that lacks message discipline, with the president tweeting every day and changing every couple of hours what he's saying. But she was able to stay on message. She was very effective. But what I think made her so effective and why he liked her so much is she got Donald Trump. She understood Donald Trump's communication strategy and was able to convey that, which is something with some of the previous press secretaries we have not seen.
What do you think she'll most be remembered for?
Well, what she'll be most be remembered for is introducing the new media, the social influencers, the social media, YouTube, alternative media.
We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House.
Because the one thing that she got that previous press secretaries have not gotten is the job of the White House press secretary is no longer to communicate just with the traditional media. It's really to communicate to the American people directly. And that's why they introduced these influencers, the social media outlets, because that was a way to get the message out. And that's something I think is going to continue with both Republican and Democratic presidents moving forward. And that's what she'll be remembered for.
And when we think of Caroline, is there a word or phrase that comes to mind, and why?
Effective. And the reason I say that is if you look at Joe Biden's two press secretaries, they were immersed in controversy. The stories often became more about them than the president and his policies. And Karoline Leavitt was able to keep the message on Donald Trump and his policies. It never became about Karoline Leavitt.
And let's talk through some of her best moments.
Well, one of the best ones was the tariffs. Everyone was piling on the Trump administration. And what Caroline did, and I think she was great at, whether it was the tariffs, Iran, any issue, is she didn't take the reporter's question and then try to answer it. She went with her own premise of what the question should be and answered what she thought the question should be. And for example, with tariffs, when everyone was piling on, talking about economic doom and disaster, she was able to pivot to saying, this is what we should be talking about, the economy around President Trump, what's going on, and she made it about his economic plan, not about tariffs. And I thought that was masterful.
Have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
That's
They
it.
don't get charged on foreign companies, they get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made. I'm now regret giving a question to the Associated Press.
Is there another moment that you remember?
Well, definitely, of course, too, the clashes with Caitlin Collins. I mean, those will definitely stand out throughout. But what was so great about those is often afterwards, the two of them would get along and talk. it didn't become personal, which we've seen with previous press secretaries.
So
That's
please,
not making the president look bad.
So-
That's showcasing that.
and
As
we,
did in his
expect
first
you to
term
cover
and
that
during
as you
Biden.
should. We expect you to cover that as you should, Caitlin. But you and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make
If
the
you're
president
trying
look
to
bad.
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree, and your ratings would tend to disagree with that as well.
And what do you think made her so good at handling those kind of moments? She was really unflappable, wasn't she?
She was very unflappable. I think a lot of it was she knew her job. She knew it wasn't about her. It was about getting the president's message out. And that's what you want in an effective communicator. And that's one thing that'll stand out. The other thing is she was relatable to members of the media. And she also, besides the clashes that we saw, was very good. They knew she was in the room with the president when the decisions were being made. And she would also give them access a lot of times or give them a heads up about a story as well. And that was something that stood out to the media. That, yes, you had the one Karoline Leavitt that you saw in front of the podium defending the president, but she also gave them access to those moments when decisions are being made and to the president and other key administration officials.
And how do you think they're going to react to her stepping down?
Well, the media, of course, will probably miss her. They were used to her. They knew where she was coming from. They'll have to adjust to whoever replaces her. But I think most of the media will miss her because she understood them, she understood her job, and she also understood the change in dynamics, that the traditional media is no longer the media. She basically rewrote the rules about how the White House deals with the media and who's the media.
And at 27, when she first came into this job, she was the youngest in American history. Do you think people underestimated her?
Oh, I definitely think they underestimated her, but I also think was an asset. Donald Trump knows how to communicate on television. We've seen this over and over again throughout his career. What she brought with her youth at age 27 was an understanding of how the TikTok generation communicates. She understood the power of social media. She understood the power of a viral moment, short responses, of tweets. That's something we had not seen in the press secretary, and that's going to be missing in whoever takes her place.
Well, that's what I was also going to ask. Do you think that that should continue? Do you think that we need someone who is another Karoline, or do you think she's hard to copy?
She's irreplaceable, and anyone who tries to copy her is going to fail. They need to be their own person, but they have to understand the changing dynamics that we're seeing in the media. More people than ever before are getting their information on social media, on online outlets, rather than your traditional media. And you need a spokesperson who understands that. And the other thing they need to understand, and I can't stress this more enough, is someone who understands that the job of the press secretary is no longer just communicating to the traditional media. It's communicating to the American people.
We've seen Karoline get access that we really haven't seen press secretaries get in the past. You know, in the Oval Office, traveling closely with Trump, around major world leaders. You know, do you think we'll see that again? Do you think she became more than just a press secretary and was more like part of his inner circle?
She definitely was part of the inner circle. And we've heard that over and over again. Even her story of how she first got into the Trump orbit when she was running for Congress originally, and she was able to meet Donald Trump and say, just don't endorse my primary opponent. That's all I'm asking for. I can prove that I'm going to win. Got her that kind of access. He admired that grittiness, that toughness. And to be an effective press secretary, you need access. We heard yesterday Donald Trump say she's going to continue to be an advisor. I do expect that. The other thing that I think is overlooked about that, too, with the access, she also had the trust and the access to Susie Wiles, the chief of staff. And that's very critical. Often we see with press secretaries, they don't have both the president and the chief of staff's full backing. She did.
Is this a particularly difficult time for her to leave? You just mentioned the midterms. Trump is dealing with a lot right now. You know, is this a real blow to him?
Well, she'll be missed without a doubt, but I think it's also a time for a reset. And we see this often in administrations. And right now, he has Iran, he has inflation, he has the midterms, Democrats threatening investigation after investigation. It's the time for the reset. And I think he wants someone who's going to come across more pugnacious. Not that she wasn't effective in fighting, but someone who seems more aggressive in doing it.
And let's talk about who could step up and do this job. What kind of, aspects do you think that they would need to have in terms of both personality, in terms of actually doing the job? What kind of person do you see stepping up next?
Well, number one, they need to be someone who's got the president's trust. That's very critical. Someone like Karoline who understands the president and understands him fully and his communication style. And I also think, too, someone who's going to chart a new course. And when I say new course, they don't want to be a carbon copy, but someone who's got the access, knows his communication strategy, knows the new media as well, and can be very effective, and someone who's not afraid to really play tough. And I think that's going to be one of the changes from Karoline Leavitt. She did play tough. She was very strong. Remember, she had that instance where she called the one journalist a left-wing journalist and everything. But she mainly did not lose her cool. I think in the changed atmosphere, you're going to want to see someone who begins attacking some of the media when they're overly critical and reporting wrongly.
We've had some names already, Scott Jennings, Anna Kennelly. Who do you think that you could maybe see up there?
Well, Scott Jennings, it would be interesting to see him move over from being a commentator to actually being the press secretary. Traditionally, Donald Trump has preferred female press secretaries. If you look at his history, I wouldn't discount Scott, but I would say if we're looking at a female, Monica Crowley, definitely, Katie Miller, Carrie Lake, and Rachel Campos Duffy.
But like you say, we don't want maybe a carbon copy of Karoline Leavitt. Do you think they'd maybe have a different look? Maybe we might see a brunette up there.
They definitely would. I mean, a different look, of course, with their hairstyle. But the other thing is, too, with Rachel Campos Duffy, she's got that media background, don't forget. She's got the access with her husband, Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, former congressman. She would be part of that inner circle. And I think that would be a great asset. Monica Crowley's got a great background as well. She has governmental experience. She's not seen, though, as much of a Trump insider. Now, another dark horse name that I've heard mentioned is Carrie Lake.
And what do you think of her taking it on?
Well, she would become the story, I think, if it became Carrie Lake. She still has ambitions, I think, electoral ambitions, and Donald Trump doesn't want that. There's only one main player in a Trump administration, and that's Donald Trump. That's why I think he wants someone who's effective, but's not going to become the story. And Karoline was very good at that.
Are there any other major challenges you think on taking on this role? It's quite a daunting job.
Well, it is. I mean, it's a thankless job. No one wants it. One of the things, though, is one of the greatest challenges is how do you deal with a president who often changes his communication and policy issues from the morning to the evening? That's something you've really got to be prepared for. And that's going to be one of the challenges for whoever succeeds him. Remember when Sean Spicer was his press secretary in the first administration, that was a challenge for him. He never really recovered.
There's certainly big shoes to fill, or heels, as it were.
They are.
And she says she's leaving to focus on her family. Obviously, she's got 2 children, but she'll remain an outside advisor to Trump. How do you see things playing out with her now and her role? Would she, do you maybe even think, work with the new press secretary in some ways?
Oh, I definitely think she'll help them, groom them, train them to take over. But I take really at face value what she said, why she's leaving at this point.
You don't think she's been fired? We think that, this was a decision she made.
No, I don't think she was fired. It was not a Pam Bondi moment.
And what do you think to his response as well? What does that show about their relationship and how close they became?
It shows that they were very close and that she was in the inner circle, and he realizes he's going to miss her very deeply.
And what would you like to see her do next? Obviously, it's very early in her career still.
Well, of course, you want to see her spend some time with her children. As she said, I think we'll definitely see her do the pundit track, and she maybe even host a new show at some point.
This definitely won't be the last we see of Karoline Leavitt, you think?
No, definitely not. She's young enough. She's got a long career ahead of her.
Have you heard any rumors out there of who it could be?
Well, I heard a lot of people are pushing Rachel Campos Duffy.
You think that would be a good thing?
Well, I think she would be very strong. The question would be, and I think you'd see a lot of speculation, and the president might not want that. Is all of this move to set Sean Duffy up for a future run in Wisconsin, perhaps for U.S. Senate or even a higher office?
Do you think we'll see someone as young as her again, or do you think we will see someone a little bit older?
I definitely think we'll see someone as young as her, if not maybe younger at some point. I mean, we're hearing among the Democrats and even among Republicans the need for this generational change. And I think, too, to really connect to Gen Z and others, we're going to see an emphasis on youth. I mean, if you look at some of the leading podcasters, if you look at some of the leading new media celebrities, they're young, very youthful. Some are younger than Caroline was when she started out. So yes, I definitely think that's going to be the trend in the future. Whether the next press secretary will be or not, that's the big question.